All right, we're taping this right after the Lions-Packers game, and it's 8:37 Pacific time. We were hoping that would be a really good game. It seemed like it was going to be a really good game, and then it was a really good game. And even better, Packers plus 3.5 covered. My adjusted Packers plus 4.5 with Love 200 plus passing yards, that covered. Won my first $1 million pick already. Detroit had the ball 36 minutes, House. They had 280 yards passing. They outgained the Packers by over 100 yards and felt like they dominated the game. And yet, I kind of feel like the Packers blew it. They had the ball first down after that long completion over the middle, and they were inside the 20, and then all of a sudden they just they're settling for a field goal, and I really feel like they had it.
Well, it was first and goal, and there was, to me, a very suspicious offensive pass interference call that pushed them way back. Yeah, it didn't. I mean, the number of times that occurs in a football game and it goes uncalled, and they were inside of it. It happened like virtually at the line of scrimmage. So
wait a second. Are you giving me, you think that we are headed toward a Lions-Bills conspiracy Super Bowl? The two losers, somebody has to win. This is Goodell has now ordered that in.
Not only, I love that, and you know who especially loves it is Cousin Sal, because I think that was his prediction for.
I think it was
the Super Bowl matchup for this season. I'm not gonna say bad things about it. Detroit is an A-side team now. Detroit gets A-side calls.
Well, explain that, because that's a Raheem phrase that you guys do on Ringer Gambling Show. For my audience, they might not know what that is, but it's Raheem's best thing.
Yeah,
it's like his best theory. I love it. But explain the A side.
I'll try and do it. It's when you've achieved a certain status, when you have, and the best example of it in the NFL is the Chiefs, where every week it feels like every call that might go their way does go their way. Every ball that bounces seems to find the hands of the team that is the A side team. I think it's basically that concept.
Yeah, it's like it's a Monday night game. Somebody's getting 3.5 in their home, and you could just tell in the first quarter the calls are going their way, and it's like, oh, they're the A-side today. It's a good one. LeBron's been the A-side in the NBA for like 15 years. The Warriors had a few A-side runs on their end too, but it's a good theory. But yet I felt like, considering that Love had 31 yards at halftime, they seemed completely blindsided by how good the Lions defense looked in that first drive when they were just flying in and hounding them. And then they found something with the run game. Then they started taking shots deep, and it felt like by the time we're in the fourth quarter, it actually felt like the Packers were a slightly better team. And then they just couldn't hold the Lions off. They got that big fourth down stop. And if I'm the Packers, I'm feeling good. I can play with that team. I can go in there in the playoffs in January, and I can hang with that team. And I'm not like losing sleep. You're going to be the wild card anyway.
The entirety of that fourth quarter felt to me like whichever team has the ball last is going to win the football game, which is a testament to, the matchup. But I just want to be clear. I know that I said the A-side thing about that dubious pass interference call. There was a holding call on Detroit in that last drive. That was also ticky-tack. Felt a little make-up-y. And to Detroit's credit, they overcame that, went right down the field. Crazy Dan Campbell goes for it on a fourth down that, had Jared Goff falling over because he gets his foot stepped on by a lineman. They still get the yards. They still, are able to just clinch the game that way. But that's the way it goes when your things are running in your favor.
On the 9 text threads I was on during this game, most people thought Campbell was a lunatic. I actually liked it, and it goes to what you said a minute ago. It started to feel like whoever had the ball last game, and he was going to, if he kick a field goal there, Love gets the ball on his own 30 with 43 seconds left, and I feel like they would have been able to go down the field and get in the field goal range. So, it's 4th and inches. They didn't get it earlier. To me, a lot of these times, I like when the Lions go for it. There's other situations where I hate it, like the Jaguars. When you can't really block and you have Trevor Lawrence, and I just am not confident you're getting it on 4th and 2 or 4th and 4. There's a bunch of teams like that. With them, I like when the play that they didn't get it, that Gibbs pitch out play, I didn't like the play. I like that they went for it, but just you have this huge offensive line, just run behind it and push forward. And it seems like teams always get into trouble when they try to get tricky, And they try to out-trick themselves a bunch of times in this game, which is why the Packers were able to hang around.
The thing that you said in our text thread, I think early in the second half, it did indeed feel like the Lions could get 10 to 15 yards passing the football anytime they wanted it. Yeah. And they ran really sharp plays in the red zone. Both times, fourth down, those touchdowns that they got were really sharp play calls. Ben Johnson in his bag, BS.
Yeah, Goff was 32 for 41 for 283. He had one bad pass. He stared the guy down through a pick. But they ran the ball. Montgomery and Gibbs were 29 for 94. I think they were only 3.6 for Montgomery, 2.9 for Gibbs. But I think the reason they were trying to run the ball, I think they were trying to shorten the game.
I agree.
Because they didn't trust the defense, right?
Totally agree, yes.
And so it just felt like, I like when the Lions play with pace because they have so many weapons. But I guess they feel like they can't do that anymore because it's such a patchwork defense. But,
right, exactly.
a lot of people writing online, people on pods have been making the same point that this whole conference feels like it's shifting toward Philly a little bit. Like I heard Lombardi today talking about, he really feels like Philly, they have the second best odds to win the NFC, but Philly's in a great spot, whether they're the 1 seed or the 2 seed, the way their defense is playing. To me, the NFC feels way more wide open than it did a couple weeks ago. And it's because of the Detroit injuries. Their defense isn't the same.
Right. Yeah. I mean, wide open means what?
Three teams.
Okay. Fair enough.
Yeah. But I thought there was a point about 4 weeks ago when it just seemed like Detroit was almost like, I'd bet anything they're going to make the Super Bowl. This just seems like the dominant NFC team. I just love the way they were playing. Even after the Hutchinson injury, it still felt pretty great. So on FanDuel right now, they have the conference stuff. Detroit's plus 140, Philly's plus 250, and the Packers are 8-1. Vikings are plus 950. And we're going to talk about them later on $1 Million Picks. But there's some pretty interesting defensive stats with them that are not encouraging. Other than that, I don't see anyone else. So it's those three in the NFC. But I feel like the Packers, I think they could go into Detroit and hang. Philly would be a little tougher because of the Philly defense.
And Philly
we need to know
also,
when J.R. Alexander comes back is the other thing.
That's right. That's going to be huge for Green Bay. The Philly thing, the Philly advantage that they have is their own ability to just, shrink the clock and run the ball, especially in the second half of these games now.
Yeah, they're good. It's interesting. Detroit has probably been on TV the most this year, other than maybe KC, right? It's those two. But I feel like Detroit, I've seen almost all of their games.
Well, sadly, we've seen way too much of the mother effing Jets. Well, I mean, the Jets shoot them straight into the sun.
But that's my point. Usually, like the NBA is in this situation now. They have just a shitload of Laker games left. They barely have any Cleveland games. They barely have any Oklahoma City games. And a lot of times, like the most televised teams, it turns out to be disappointing. I love watching Detroit.
So
I really
do
get it. And I have fantasy guys from them in different leagues, and I'm sure that's part of it. I have the 1 seed bet with them. I have their over, all kinds of stuff. But I just think they're really entertaining offensively. Like about as entertaining of an offense as we've seen in a while. And then the big thing that they added that they just didn't have in the first 2 months was this Tim Patrick, who I always thought was good on the Broncos. He got hurt and he was healthy in preseason. And I guess Peyton just liked other receivers, let him go. And he's the third receiver that the Lions have kind of been dying for. Like he had a couple really big catches today, but I think they just have playmakers everywhere.
Everywhere.
I always feel like that Packers didn't get that thing, tie game, 4 minutes left. And it's like, fuck, you guys probably lost. I don't think you're stopping the Lions. I think they're going to get in a field goal range and win the game. Like, didn't you have that feeling?
Yeah, of course. Yes. The only thing that put it into doubt at all was crazy Dan Campbell going for it on that fourth down.
Well, I wonder. I wonder like the pie chart of that decision making where they didn't get it before. And I do think there's like a attitude piece to when he's been doing this for 3 years, right?
No doubt.
And it's like, if I go for it here and we get it, I kind of win our swagger back. If I kick the field goal combined with us not getting it before, our swagger's in like a tiny bit of a question. And he's just aggro. That's who he is.
Yeah, it's true. And I do wonder, it can't be part of the affirmative calculation when he's sitting there making the decision, but there is got to be something in terms of the identity. Like, this is who we are. This is what we do.
We have to do it.
We don't waver from it. We can't waver from our identity. This is who we plow ahead. We plow ahead. And it did have the desired outcome, which was not giving the Green Bay Packers the football back.
The nerds didn't like it. It was like, I think 4% probability was better if they just kicked it for winning the game, which I was surprised by.
Okay.
But I liked it. I thought they were going to get it. I always judge the stuff by, do I think they're going to get it? If I'm like, I was, obviously root for the Packers with the plus points and hoping that the Lions would kick the field goal, and really worried that not only were they going to get it, but they were going to be the thing where they like break through and get the touchdown. And I don't know, just the whole thing made me nervous. So are the Lions still the best team to you?
Sure. Yes. I mean, we're going to see Kansas City this coming week. And I feel like we're due for a Kansas City statement game. And it might be this weekend. It might be this weekend.
Well, that's nice to move into $1 million picks because we had KC down as one of the possibilities. KC, the Lions finally adjusted to back up what we've been watching week after week, where they haven't been covering any of these games and they've been pulling wins out of their ass. And every week the Lions have been 3 to 8 points too high for them.
Yeah.
And FanDuel and everybody else who makes lines finally had enough of it. And they made them 3.5 point favorites at home against the Chargers on a Sunday night that don't have J.K. Dobbins, that McConkey's hurt, and like, we'll see tomorrow on Friday. Usually if the guy doesn't practice on Friday, it's usually a bad sign for playing.
Right.
He's been like their big play guy every third down.
The only play guy.
Yeah. And I would have thought the line would be maybe 6.5.
I was going to say 6.
All the odds makers were like, nope, we've had it with the Chiefs. It's 3.5.
You know why? The Chiefs are on a 6-game against the spread losing streak.
Right.
Incredible for a team with their winning percentage. If you look at the history, there's some great numbers out there. Action Network team was doing it. Some incredible numbers about a team with their winning percentage being on a 0-6 against the spread streak.
Yeah, and even if you look at their last 6 wins, beat the Niners by 10. That turns out to be a congratulations. Vegas by 7, Tampa by 6, Denver by 2, Carolina by 3, Vegas by 2. They beat Vegas twice by 9 points combined. And I think the odds makers have just had it. And they're like, you know what? So to me, it's a huge gambling opportunity because I don't love the hook, but it does allow us to use their money line and start combining it with stuff. But, the big thing for me with the matchup is just, not sure about the Chargers at all. Their best wins I like them. I've enjoyed betting on them. I have them make the playoffs. Like, they're better than a good bad team. I'm not sure they're a good team. Their best 2 wins were Denver by 7 and Atlanta by 4. Denver's the only team with a winning record they've beaten.
Yeah.
KC's defense 3rd against the run. Chargers don't have Dobbins. Their run game was non-existent last week. Chiefs at home. Chiefs kind of need to make some sort of statement at some point before we get to January. And this just feels like the week.
I agree. I mean, this is, the weakness for Kansas City has been their pass defense since the cornerback Jalen Watson got hurt. That was against San Francisco. We've seen a lot of teams get into that secondary, that Kansas City secondary. But the Chargers are so one-dimensional now. And look, all credit to Coach Harbaugh. Amazing turnaround. And they did exactly what they needed to do against stupid Atlanta, which was just hang around. Just be on the football field and
just
let
Kirk
Atlanta
Cousins win it for them.
Serve you up on a Thanksgiving platter. Here you go, guys. We've got some nice leftovers for you. How would you like to win this game? And Herbert and the Chargers accepted openly. But that's not the Chiefs. That's not the Chiefs at home. That's not the Chiefs only laying a little number like this. Patrick Mahomes, with laying, under 6 like this, very good numbers. It's like in the 60-some% range. And they got extra rest, right? They're
Right.
coming off of that Friday all the way back around to a nice Sunday. This could be a Chiefs smash spot, but it could be a Chiefs smash spot.
So do you like the -3.5, or are you like at a money line with somebody else? Because there's a money line situation that I really like.
I like it all. I'll just tell you, I like it all. I'm not afraid of any of it.
Okay. The hook scares me just because the settling for field goal things. They do have Pacheco back.
Tell me how the Chargers scored 20 points.
I know.
Tell me how.
I know. I'm with you. So, House, on the Ringer Gambling Show today, you were talking about a parlay, and I was listening to it, and I already had it written down, and I texted it to the thread, the Sunday pregame thread, before I heard you actually toss out the parlay, and it was basically the torn Achilles parlay. Yeah. It was take Minnesota against Atlanta, and take Miami against the Jets, short Cousins, short Rodgers. It's like, I think plus 109, something like that.
I mean, both of those guys' left legs are shorter, so it makes sense.
Right. And I like the symmetry of it. And I was like, I would love to do that. I would love to bet against Kirk Cousins again. And obviously Miami at home. I actually think Miami is a little undervalued now because the Packers Thursday night game threw everyone off the scent. But it was cold weather Thursday night. What the fuck do you think was going to happen? They'd actually played well the weeks before that. So,
and let's be fair, the Dolphins offense was up to the challenge.
Right.
The Dolphins defense wanted no part of tackling in that under those circumstances.
They didn't want to be there.
They did not.
And then Atlanta's 9-19 in their last 28 against the spread. Worth mentioning. Atlanta's not good. No, they're 6-6. They really could be 3-9, 2-10, a couple plays. And I was like, I'm going to do Minnesota. This sounds great. And then I started looking at the Minnesota defensive stats, which I mailed to you. And they're a little alarming. And there's something I don't trust about this game. My shit detector's going off because it's really like the make or break game of the season for Atlanta. They're at an impasse with Cousins here. It's Cousins going back to Minnesota. But I look at Minnesota, they give up 29 to Green Bay, 31 to Detroit, 27 to Chicago, 30 to the Rams. Last week, Arizona had 406 yards and 25 first downs in them and really kind of choked the game away. They had the game. They're up 19-6. They're in control. And I just don't trust Minnesota. And make the counter with just try to do your Kirk Cousins counter and let's talk this out.
Yeah, so what we've seen from him in virtually every game except for the games against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, where virtually all of the yardage, all of the positive EPA for the Atlanta offense was generated from the enormous success that the Falcons offense had against Tampa in 2 games. Over the last 3 games, Kirk Cousins has this many, I'm holding it up, but giant 0 touchdown passes, and they were not against great defenses.
Right.
There was against the Saints was one of those games. I mean, I'll go back and
the Chargers have a good defense.
They had, but it was a short week and a travel week for the Chargers, and the Falcons had no problem moving the football up and down the field. They just got to the red zone and puked all over themselves. And Kirk Cousins especially, short arming and short legging and not moving and playing out of pistol. And the guy that is the offensive coordinator for Atlanta not covering himself in glory, because we keep having this conversation about the Falcons not putting Kirk Cousins in a tenable position, a tenable situation. They have 2 incredible running backs. It doesn't matter. They try and set up play action. It doesn't matter. Cousins single-handedly is taking wins away from this team, and it's only going in one direction with him physically. One of the guys in our thread shared that next gen stat. Now, I don't know how long next gen has been around. Is it 2 years? Is it 20 years?
Is this the mile an hour stat?
Yes. No quarterback. No, there are no quarterbacks since next gen has been measuring the velocity of passes that's had at least 20 attempts and has not reached 37 miles an hour. And Kirk Cousins came along on Sunday and said, "Hold my beer, mother effers. I'm right here." And you could see it. I mean, they kept saying We watched that
terrible.
game. That
he had no push out of his feet at all.
No push.
Would you want next gen stats to measure your P's since like you were a teenager to now?
No.
Miles per hour? Can we have next gen stats in bathrooms?
Lord, no.
My P is down to 34 miles an hour.
I don't want anybody measuring my bathroom performance.
Any sort of streams?
No.
Well, you compared Cousins to Joe Biden on the Ringer Sunday. What did you say?
Well, only in the sense that like when you reach this point physically, it only goes in one direction. That was the point I was trying to make. Like the case that people were trying to make over the summer. Oh, the Joe Biden, behind
the scenes is as sharp as a tack.
There was no overcoming the thing because the thing was he's old and you can't. Yeah. It only goes in one direction. Every day that goes by, you're one day older. That's where Cousins is right now. It's not that he's in a rough patch. It's not that he's working things out. He's not, he doesn't have the yips. He's not physically able. He's literally physically unable to perform. And that's why going up against a Brian Flores blitz-heavy defense.
I know, but the defense hasn't been that good, though.
It's the blitz is the thing.
I get it.
It's the blitz. It's not the secondary that I'm interested in. It's the blitz. So
I think I see the case. I feel like I got so lucky last week on $1 Million Picks with the Chargers in that game where they just couldn't do anything, and Cousins just single-handedly delivered the game to them.
He did.
I almost feel like I don't even want to play with house money with them.
Fine.
There's another game I like with to me the parlay is Miami and Kansas City. And
fine, great.
The Dolphins home against the Jets. Sauce Gardner. We're taping this on a Thursday night. He's got a bad hamstring, so he's either going to be playing hurt or not playing. Either scenario, awful for the Jets with the speed of the Dolphins. Breece Hall is questionable for the 100th straight week. The Jets are awful. They're 1-5 on Sundays. They're 1-6 on the road. They're 1-8 on Sundays. 1-6 on the road. They have 3 starters out on their offensive line. Their left tackle and their entire right side. Miami's defense, sneaky good. 9th against the run, 9th against the pass.
Improving.
Yeah.
Well,
and you look at their Tua losses, right? Tua missed a bunch of games there. But the games they've lost with Tua, they lost to Buffalo twice. They lost to Green Bay. They lost to Arizona. I don't think they're bad.
Well, you know who likes playing against the Jets? Who I'm ready to get in bed with? Tua D's Nuts.
Yeah.
Tua D's Nuts loves playing against the Jets. He's 3-0 or straight up or whatever. The numbers are very good. And on top of that, they're home. And their offense is so much more comfortable. They're all of the precision stuff. The DJ is spinning his home Miami sound.
DJ Mikey Mac. Yeah.
He loves it. He loves spinning those Miami records. He loves the Miami sound.
Oh, I think he's breaking out some 45s for this game. Shout out to Lombardi. I think the DJ went into the attic and pulled some rare selections from the early 90s. Like
let me. No. I want to ask you some yacht rock. I mean, he really looks
maybe
like
he did. Maybe he got inspired by the yacht rock doc. Maybe he went and grabbed some doobies.
Doesn't it look like he could be in the doc?
He definitely could.
A missed opportunity.
Yeah. The Jets line, I just don't see any. They seem like if they're not the worst coach team in the league, they're one of the 3 or 4 worst coach teams in the league. They make penalties every week.
Yes.
Rodgers clearly just can't wait for the season to be over at this point. It's just a disaster. So it seems like a great spot.
It's a great parlay leg. It's a great teaser leg. However you want to put Miami in any mix.
Miami money line, KC money line is plus 109.
Great. I'm in.
So
done.
We'll mark that one down. The next one, you knew this was coming if you listen to this podcast. Nothing I love more than a team that has fired their coach, who the players were rebelling against, then playing the next week. It's not 100%, but it feels like it's at least 80. We just hit this with the Saints, which we did not do. You talked me out of it. The fucking clogger came in, won a game outright. You talked me out of it. I've forgiven you. But this Bears Niners.
Well, it didn't happen for the Jets. The Jets lost their first game.
No, but they remember that game though. They kind of should have won, and then they jetsed it up. But they did Coach play better,
Bright,
and then they kind of fucked it up. Yeah, the brick.
Yeah, the brick.
Old brick.
Yeah.
I've watched a few of these Bears games.
Yeah.
And they've had some lows, right? They've had some games where they just look awful. But
I get your point.
They've also had some pretty good moments and stretches and halves, and I think they figured out something with Caleb the last couple of weeks with just having him get rid of the ball faster. Defense can create some pressure. I don't know. I think they could win this game. It feels like a 3-point game. To me, the bigger thing is this is a zag against a Niners team that feels like the season is going in the wrong direction. Not just like not making the playoffs, but like it's like just kind of edging toward, hey, are we sure Kyle Shanahan should be the coach next year?
Oh,
Can we do that? Niners fans have you talked to? Yeah, that in the Niners fans worlds, there's a lot of Kyle Shanahan consternation right now.
I mean, they literally got what 2/3 of a legit game out of McCaffrey over 13 games.
I'm not saying it's rational. I'm just saying.
I mean, he's literally the most important player in the league. Like he's in the conversation for offensive player of the league every year that he's healthy. Well, I don't know, taking that guy out of the mix. It seems like it,
and they lose Ayuk. Their defense isn't the same.
No,
we see this in football every year with at least one team and sometimes two. The pedigree team that either just has way too many injuries or gets old. And we just sit there I went against the Niners in that Packers game. Like I've had success going against them, betting against them because I just don't think they're good. And
didn't Brandon Allen? I mean, that wasn't really going out on a limb with Brandon Allen.
I know, but the lines didn't really reflect even that.
Okay.
And then it was like I don't know. I just thought the way they were being measured. They're a past tense team to me is my point.
Fine.
They're not a present tense team. They're not an arrow pointing up team. I think the Bears can beat them this week, and I love the new coach bump.
The only thing that I'm concerned with is like, when's the last time the Bears won a game on the road?
Right.
It's been that was one of the Eberflus hallmarks. Like, go find him on the road and load up against the Bears because they don't.
The thing that worried me looking at the stats was just the Bears' run defense has been bad. I think they're like 27th against the run.
Yeah.
The Niners are obviously a good running team, but they're down to Isaac Guerrero.
Yeah, their third stringer, right?
Yeah.
The fantasy darling this week.
And Trent Williams is hurt. Might play, might not.
Right.
Yeah,
that was for that Buffalo game. As soon as Williams was out, I was like, oh, I can't have enough Buffalo. Put all the Buffalo on my plate. That was my Thanksgiving dessert.
So Bears plus 3.5, or Bears in a tease, or Bears adjusted, or Bears money line. What hardens your nipples out of those?
Well, it depends on what color Caleb's fingernails are, but starting from there, I'd like the Bears like in a tease. That's the only thing that makes me feel comfortable. Because the Niners, had two diabolical situations in that Green Bay and Buffalo back to back. And I'm worried that there's like the basic operating function. Now, again, let's see if Trent Williams is playing. That'll be a determining factor. But out of all of the options you're giving me, the Bears with a tease leg is my favorite.
All right. So what if I gave you the Bears plus 8.5?
Okay.
In the Steelers money line against Jameis and the Browns, which is minus 110 on FanDuel.
Now we're talking. That's a good one.
And that's our bet.
Love that one. Yes.
So Steelers game, Cleveland has the really tough, exciting game in Denver in altitude on Monday night, playing 6 days later against Pittsburgh. In the Denver game, so my buddy Gus Ramsey, huge Denver fan, and he was telling me the D-back that was out was going to have a dramatic effect on the game because the guy that was going in for him could not cover anybody. And he's like, I'm a little nervous about Jameis in this game because we have this guy that I think, and guess what? That guy gave up like 200 yards. So I think that's made people think the Browns are a little more explosive than maybe they actually are. So you sent me some Brown stats. The Browns have lost 20 consecutive regular season games in Pittsburgh. Their last win was October 2003 with Tim Couch.
Yes.
I had been living in LA for less than a year when that happened.
Shout out Evan Abrams.
In Mike Tomlin's career with the Steelers, no opposing QB has gone 2-0 against the spread against him in the same season.
You're straight up against him.
Straight up against him. Yeah. Straight up.
Straight up.
So Jameis beat them in that fluky, stupid Thursday snow game.
Right.
Which had all the makings of a stay away, and then it turned out it was. And I continue to think the Steelers team's a little undervalued. I actually think this line should be higher than 6.5, but I'm delighted that the money line is only -310. And I feel like this is a gift from the gods, and we have to put it in somewhere.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I like the money line just fine. Over history in these division games, when Pittsburgh has been favored around 6 in that neighborhood, it doesn't, the underdog division opponent tends to cover. Yeah. And that's been, sort of the Tomlin thing. You grab Tomlin and the Steelers when they are underdogs, and you fade them against the spread when they're faves. But this is a situation where we're just looking for the Steelers to win. I don't want to mess around with the points. I mean, the ceiling and the floor with Jameis it's like, Mount Everest, the variance there. So let's just go ahead and pick the Steelers to win, have that be a leg, and then we can move on with our lives.
So Steelers, you could tease them with the over of 37.5, which I wanted to discuss quickly, even though it's December, a little colder. But the fact that the Browns will not be able to run the ball at all, and Nick Chubb, I love Nick Chubb, but it really feels like maybe he should have sat this year out. But they're not going to be able to run the ball, which means they're going to throw it a lot, which means the ball is going to be in play all over the place. Raheem had an incredible stat today on the gambling show that Jameis actually broke the passing yards record if you include the 190 whatever interception yards that he had with his own yards. He was like 600 yards receiving for both teams.
Nearly 680 combined receiving yards.
But Raheem said that every interception has a 5-point impact on the spread.
Yep.
Jameis is good for probably 2 interceptions in this game. I don't know. It just seems like 37.5, lowering that with the Steelers, as a tease. That's another way to go. And then we're not relying on the Bears if we like the Steelers that much.
Yeah. I mean, it's a danger zone when you start messing with the points in these AFC North games, especially in December. We recognize the risk. But if the weather doesn't look like it has a high chance of precipitation, it looks like it's just going to be 40 degrees, cloudy-ish. The wind doesn't look insane. So those are still, because we think that with Arthur Smith, it's a miracle. They get rid of that bum Matt Canada, and all of a sudden they have 4 games where with both Justin Fields and Russell Wilson, all of a sudden Pittsburgh can gain 400 yards on offense all again. It's a goddamn magic act. Kudos to Arthur Smith for, getting his bag, cooking up some offense. It's fun to watch. And did Arthur Smith, or did he revitalize Russell Wilson's career? Because
there's a whole case with Arthur
Russ
Smith.
Is cooking.
Wait, you could look at Arthur Smith and just be like, who was the quarterback that he had to work with? Everybody he had as a quarterback in the Falcons is not a starting quarterback in the NFL. I mean, Ritter played a couple of weeks because 3 guys got hurt. But, maybe he was a good coach just in a bad situation. I don't know what to think, but he's completely reinvigorated Pittsburgh. There's another snare I'm just going to throw at you. Since it seems like we like the Pittsburgh money line, the KC money line, and the Miami money line the most.
Yeah.
You put those 3 together, that's plus 177 on FanDuel.
So I wouldn't do a full, allocation like you like to do. I wouldn't do a full 200,000 on that one. But I mean, that's worth $100,000. That's worth $50,000. Yeah, it's nearly this, 1 3/4 to 1. We like that.
Minnesota, yes or no?
I mean, I'm all in on it. It's a smash for me. I love Minnesota. I think they're going to kick the living crap out of Atlanta. There's all kinds of numbers that about Kirk indoors. He stinks indoors. He's been playing. He had all those years in Minnesota, but he hasn't been good. I mean, there's a lot of angles if you want to fade Atlanta, but the biggest one is it's one-legged Cousins.
I really do like the symmetry of the Cousins with Rodgers parlay.
Fade the frauds.
So would you put Steelers with Minnesota or the Bears?
Definitely Minnesota. Because I mean,
so you know what? I'm going to put Steelers with Minnesota. And then if Minnesota blows it,
it's my fault.
I just get to blame you and call you a motherfucker.
You can
and
mother
send you
F
nasty
me.
texts.
You can
send you that picture where you click it. You think it's a news link, but it's that guy sitting on the toilet with the huge dong. I'm gonna do that to you.
The P stream. Send me some P stream, some next gen P stream. Yeah.
So we do Steelers Vikes. We're already up 200K this week. So Steelers Vikes. And I'm gonna just do the Bears plus 3.5 against the Niners because I think they can.
You're allowed
win that one. All right.
It's your money.
All right. Let's do it. $1 million picks. Week 14. We're already up $200,000 thanks to the Packers covering 4.5 and Jordan Love throwing for 200 plus yards. Won $870,000 last week, House.
It's a good one.
For the season, we are on now $1.413 million. Go back and fucking fact check it because that's the number, baby. Here we go. $1 million picks. The rest of them, because we're already up 200K. Miami Dolphins going against Aaron Rodgers, who we can see on Netflix on December 17th in Enigma, which I'll be watching as I pour salt in my eyes.
I was gonna say, which I won't be watching.
I'm gonna watch it as I drip Tabasco sauce like it's contact lens solution into my eyeballs.
Well, Tabasco it always makes me think of Gil Bang. But if we're gonna watch,
I might Gil Bang myself.
If we're gonna watch, then I'm gonna get next gen to watch. I'll be watching with my P stream.
Miami money line against the Jets, with the Kansas City Chiefs money line.
Yeah.
Against the Chargers. We cannot figure out how the Chargers are going to score even 14 points in this game, especially if McConkey doesn't play.
Right.
So Miami KC money line, that is plus 109. House, we're having a good run right now. I'm going to get a little freaky.
Let me hear it.
We're putting 250K on that.
Bang bang.
Yeah.
Speaking of Gil Bang.
We're Gil banging that up to 250K. Bears plus 3.5 in San Francisco. New coach theory. The Eberflus thing was so bad that there were reports of he started to speak to the team after the game, and Jalen Johnson, their star cornerback, just interrupted him and started screaming at him that he doesn't understand why the coaching keeps it blah, blah, blah. It sounded awful.
I feel bad.
Listen,
I think he's like a decent enough dude, and
he's a good defensive coordinator.
He will be. He just had no business being in that job. Like the whole world knew it. We were making the jokes in the effing summer about the Bears. You have this prized possession, the number 1 draft pick. Don't F it up. And they put this dunce in charge, and he runs it right to the ground, and they wasted a year of this kid's career and his development. Now, here's the redemption story.
Well, they could have gotten Mike Vrabel. They could have gotten Jim Harbaugh, maybe. They were real guys to get. Do you think
they couldn't talk to Belichick? They couldn't talk to him? They couldn't have a conversation with the man?
Same thing with Saleh and the Jets.
But here's the redemption
again,
story.
You see these teams hold on to the coach for the extra year when we already know the jig is up.
Doofusville.
What's the redemption story?
Thomas Brown, your guy, the new head coach. This week, this is when it starts. We've seen the green sprouts shooting up of Caleb, getting rid of the ball quickly. That offense gets cooking a little.
Team likes him.
DJ Moore is alive for fantasy football playoff time.
I know. Yeah, so Bears plus 3.5. New coach theory. It's almost a blind for me at this point. You talked me out of it with the Clogger and the Saints. I resented you for it. We're doing it here. And also a chance to short the Niners. Because to really have a season from hell, you got to keep losing in December. Like they haven't clinched season for hell stat. You still have to have a couple more losses. So we're going to do that. And then last but not least, we love the Steelers at home against the Browns. Just like Jameis coming off Monday night. He's not beating Tomlin twice in the same season. Steelers need the game.
Yeah, they really need the game.
Oh man, we got caught by surprise. We relaxed. Like they need every game. They're trying to win their division and get either the 2 seed or the 3 seed.
Yep.
So we're putting the Steelers in a tease, in a money line thing with the Vikings.
Like it.
And the Vikings are minus 5.5. So we're throwing the Steelers in with the Vikings, which you insisted on because they're going against Kirk Cousins.
Yes.
Who basically died last week and turned into a chalk outline that resembled John Jastrzemski watching the Miami Dolphins playoff game in my house.
Well, I think he died like a month ago, but we finally caught on.
We finally realized.
Yeah.
I'm just on the record as saying my shit detector was going off with this game. It seems too easy. The Minnesota defense, I think, is a little overrated.
Okay.
But you talked me into it. Steelers, Vikings. It's minus 119 on FanDuel. Just that has to win. And we take it. We're putting 200K on that. We're putting 200K on the Bears plus 3.5 as well. And then, you know what else? Just for fun, just for shits and giggles.
Let's hear it.
Little 50K extra plus 177. Steelers, Miami, KC, all to win. Little extra.
I mean, we do like it.
Little sprinkling.
Who F's us? Let's play who F's us on that one.
Not KC. Miami's always worries me. Just
I agree. That is the answer.
The disc jockey and
it's true.
Tua taking a hit. Who knows?
One last hurrah.
Anyway, those are the $1 million picks for week 14.